Hello and welcome to the show again. I'm Marba Kumsin. It is only 12 days to the December 7 elections, but it appears the Electoral Commission is still facing an uphill task of convincing some of the major players in the polls, especially the opposition New Patriotic Party, that the polls will be free and fair. Remember, the running mate of the Progressive People's Party, Bridget Jobwenuku, earlier told us free and fair elections this year will be difficult because, in her view, there is uncertainty surrounding the credibility of the polls following the numerous court cases and allegations against the EC. Another concern that was raised by the MPP was the possibility of the firm printing the ballots to be compromised. Well, today, the Electoral Commission and National Security are supervising the destruction of plates and other materials used in printing ballot papers and notice of poll sheets for the Greater Accra and the Volta regions. The company contracted to print the papers, Innolink, has completed its task and has begun defacing the printing materials ahead of the destruction at Abublushi this afternoon, and we will be bringing you more on that. Now, presidential candidates of the Progressive People's Party, the People's National Convention, and the National Democratic Party, that is, have emphatically stated that the 2016 elections will not be free and fair. The BBP's Dr. Papakwesi Indum, the PNC's Dr. Edward Mahama, and the NDP's Nana Konadu Rawlings have today, Thursday, issued a joint statement on the matter. Let's speak to a member of the PPP, policy advisor of the PPP, Kofi Asamoah, who joins us on the line with this. Good afternoon to you, and thanks for joining us.
Yes. Hello.
So we've seen this statement is jointly signed by the flag bearers of the three parties. Why do you say the elections will not be free and fair?
Well, first of all, we need to understand that free fair election does not happen on election day because people have queued up and they go and cast the ballot, it is counted, and somebody is declared a winner. On that basis, you will say that you are free and fair election. That is a misunderstanding that we have had over the years with CODEO, European Union, and African Union mission coming to observe the election and say that because you are the winner, the election is free and fair. When we have closed our eyes to the intimidation, the abuse of incumbency, and in this particular election, the Electoral Commission is a player on the side of one candidate or more, and all that it is doing is to do things in their favor. The Electoral Commission, on one breath, is enforcing the laws given to it by Parliament, and on another breath, the Electoral Commission is violating its own regulations, possibly in favor of another candidate. This is what we see, that these instances that are happening, that the Electoral Commission using the DI-94 as a punitive tool to punish and to, if you like, oppress, as an oppressive tool against political parties they don't like, or political parties that will cause frustration in the part of other people, send us to court, lose 6 weeks of campaign activity at this crucial moment of election. How can anybody conclude that 2016 election will be free and fair? It has escaped that it will not happen.
Marcia, you say that the EC is given an unfair advantage to some other parties. Which other parties are you speaking of? And when you say unfair advantage, what are you exactly talking about?
We suspect that everything the Electoral Commission is doing is in favor of the National Democratic Congress, and it's in favor of President John Dramani Mahama. Otherwise, why would we be talking about recounting of the ballot when the election is so close? When we don't have something like that under the regulation CI-94, when we don't have a definition of what the closeness means, when you have used and you still continue to use collusion with state security to harass political opponents apart from that of the NDC. Now we have today a bloated special voters list when the Electoral Commission, under the cover of darkness, when the deadline has passed, putting on the list some people we know as what? Police recruits. When the law is not being applied fairly and is applied in a manner that gives credence that somehow and in the past the police have been used against us. The Yoko was asked to come after us. Who controls all these state institutions? And the Electoral Commission go into a kind of arrangement with them, increase the voters, special voters list. And these are the people that the Electoral Commission has used in the past to harass us. So you can only come to one conclusion, that President Mahama stands to benefit from the manipulations of the Electoral Commission, and we need to speak to it so that it is on public record that we will not have free and fair elections. We have not had it, and we are not going to have it unless these things are addressed. Casting the ballot and going home doesn't give us free and fair elections.
Now, Mr. Samasian, one of the reasons you point out for stating that the elections will not be free and fair is that you have lost close to 6 weeks in court litigating against the unnecessary attempted disqualification of your candidature, and you say this is part of a deliberate scheme to frustrate your efforts. But the other parties made no mistakes, as far as we are concerned, on their nomination forms, which is why they didn't lose the crucial time they needed for the campaigning. How can you put this on the Electoral Commission?
Yeah, however, you are wrong, because on the press conference, or at the press conference held on the 10th of October, if the date is correct, the date that the Electoral Commission chair announced the disqualification or purported disqualification of some candidate, she said that those who brought their forms on the 29th had mistakes on their form, and they gave them opportunity to come and rectify. Which political party submitted their forms on the 29th? The NDC was there. The NPP was there. So it is not the case that they didn't make mistakes. It was the case that the EC chose to call them to come and rectify their mistakes. If they didn't apply the same measure to us and allow us to go this tortuous process, spend high legal fees, spend a lot of time in court instead of campaigning in the field, that means that it was a deliberate, orchestrated, well-calculated. In fact, the first attempt to prevent us from participating fully was the fixing of those arbitrary high fees, filing fees, so that they priced the election outside some political parties, so that we will even have parliamentary candidates. And one more example, the Electoral Commission, after the deadline, have come out to disqualify some of our parliamentary candidates. If you put all this together, when the Supreme Court says you should allow people to comply with Regulation 92B of CI 94, you don't go and do that, then you clandestinely disqualify candidates. When the statement of how do you call the other one? The notice of vote.
Okay, Mr. Samuel, please hold on for me. We have the Deputy Head of Communications for the Electoral Commission, luckily, on the line with us, Mr. Yusuf Ayuba. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Ayuba.
Good afternoon.
Would you quickly like to respond to what the concerns raised by Mr. Kofi Assamoah, suggesting that the elections will not be free and fair?
I don't know where he's coming from. All he's doing, or all they've done, is to put out series of allegations, and I think that I'm not prepared, to go into any argument with him.
All right. Okay. Then we'll leave it there. But Mr. Ayuba, thank you very much. Mr. Kofi Assamoah is a policy advisor for the Progressive People's Party. But Mr. Ayuba is still on the line with us, and the Electoral Commission has dismissed suggestions that persons living within the Kwi and Dollar Power communities in the Bole constituency in the northern region may not be able to vote. This comes as police in the north deny reports that suspected Ivorian rebels have taken control of the two communities which share a border with neighboring Ivory Coast, and thereby hampering the Electoral Commission's efforts at organizing elections for some 1,500 residents there. The two border communities have reportedly been a sanctuary for former President Laurent Gbagbo, his backed rebel gang Young Patriot, after he was forced out of office in 2011. Well, Public Relations Officer for the Northern Region Police Command, ASP Ebenezer Tete, has been speaking to Joy News on the issue. He says the reports are baseless. Be under control, but will persons living in the area be affected in any way, disenfranchised? Joining us on the line is Deputy Head of Communications at the EC, Yusuf Ayuba, who is still on the line, I believe. Ms. Ayuba, we spoke to the police earlier. They told us that they will help people to exercise their franchise. But what are the challenges potential voters may face in trying to vote there in those two communities?
Thank you very much. Let me state that dollar power is not in Ghana. It is you need to cross the black border into Ivory Coast. So in the first place, we cannot set up a polling station in dollar power, although we have Ghanaian residents, living there and mining. The law will not permit us to set up polling stations outside, the country. That is the first thing. Most of the people who are in dollar power are residents in the Bole district who are registered in the various polling stations across the district. So all those persons can freely, on election day, come to or visit all the polling stations in which they are registered and would be able to vote. When we come to Kwe is under Singa electoral area. So all the persons who live there and mine there can also have access to polling stations in the district. So I wouldn't say it's a problem. We have to distinguish the issue of security and voting. For the Electoral Commission, we have, if you look at dollar power, it's closer to a polling station called in Tereso, which is in the Benfi electoral area. So all the persons who are in dollar power and who are registered within the Benfi electoral area can come on election day and cast their vote. So it's not going to be any problem for residents who are duly registered and qualified to vote to be able to vote.
So if I understand you correctly, by this you mean that in 2012 you didn't face any challenges in that particular constituency or that area, the community? Some of these communities are areas where, once a while, they discover, gold. So you see a very large number of people migrating, to mine there. Immediately the mine is over or they deplete their gold resource, all of them would leave and it will become a ghost town. So most of these areas, you cannot just, decide that you are going to set up a polling station, because one of the criteria in setting up a polling station is it should be in a permanent, location. Kwe used to be a mining town. I am told that it is now turning into a community. So as and when it is determined that it is feasible for the Electoral Commission, to put up a polling station there, the Electoral Commission would take up that proposal and look into it. But for the dollar power, it is outside the jurisdiction of Ghana. Very well. Thank you so much for your time. That's Yusuf Ayuba. He's Deputy Head of Communications at the Electoral Commission. To the campaign trail now, and the presidential candidate of the opposition New Patriotic Party has condemned what he describes as divisive comments made by President John Mahama. The president is reported to have said that the MPP would never allow its running mate, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, to be flag bearer because he is from the north. The comment has attracted criticisms from a section of the public while addressing a national rally in the Upper West Regional Capital, while Nene Akufo-Addo said President Mahama's comments show he does not understand democracy.
Flag bearer of the MPP, Nana Addo Dankwa, stated that given the opportunity to rule the country, he will make a new Ghana where everybody will be part of the forward movement of the country, irrespective of where one comes from.
We sit in a country of wealth, and yet we are going hungry. God willing, when I come, we're going to change all that and make it possible for the wealth of our nation to work for each and every one of us in our country. We are going to build a new Ghanaian civilization, which is going to be the light of Africa and the wonder of the world. That is the future that is beckoning for us. That is the future for which we are working. We want to go forward as one united people, committed to the same goals of national development, progress, and prosperity. We don't want to have ourselves divided tribe against tribe, north against south. That is reactionary politics. It's the politics of yesterday. We are interested in the politics of tomorrow, the politics of progress, the politics of development, the politics of hope, the politics of prospect. That is what the new patriotic party has for the Ghanaian people.
Reporting for Dwayne News, Rafiq Salam.
Well, meanwhile, General Secretary of the governing NDC, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, has been responding to the issue of tribal politics by the two main political parties as he addressed party supporters in the northern region. Listen.
A presidential candidate, or the others within NDC did not think that because he's a can, they shouldn't vote for him. They all voted for him. And in fact, he had his highest vote from the northern sector. And he wasn't a northerner. Then, when Professor Mills expired, we chose a northerner, President Dramani Mahama, who is the president. We didn't say that northerners end at running mates or vice president. We think that we are equally Ghanaians, and if somebody has operated as a vice president, he is more qualified to be president than anybody else. So we made him president, and we are fighting to get him his second term as a president. So you see, when we talk about NDC's respect for every Ghanaian and NDC's respect for northerners, others, Fantis, Akans, and everybody equally, people want to construe it as if we are doing tribal politics. We are not doing tribal politics. We are not saying vote for President Mahama because he's a northerner. Because you were voting for NDC even when our flag bearer and the running mate were serveless. You still voted for us. President Rawlings' system didn't even win all the northern sector votes. It is because of the way NDC dignifies everybody in Ghana, including the northerners. When it comes to registration, and you happen to find yourself outside the northern sector, and you want to go and register, is it not MPP?
Well, now, the NPP would take the lead over the governing NDC if the upcoming general elections were to be held now, a research from the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana has indicated. According to a team of researchers from the department led by senior lecturer Dr. Isaac Owusu-Mensah, the opposition party would record 49.9%. The team said the governing NDC would also record a rate of 39.9%. The team of political scientists further said the Progressive People's Party, the PPP, will record 5%, whilst the Convention People's Party will garner 1.7%. The National Democratic Party, led by Mrs. Rawlings, would get 1.7%, and Dr. Edward Mahama's PNC would record 0.2% respectively. While the 3-month research focused on 24 swing constituencies in 7 out of the 10 regions. The Eastern, the Ashanti, and the Volta regions were the regions left out of by the researchers. The lead researcher, Dr. Isaac Owusu-Mensah, explains further.
The survey was undertaken by a lecturer at the University of Ghana Political Science Department, Dr. Isaac Mensah. It sampled the views of Ghanaians of voting age from 24 constituencies across the country. These are constituencies that have at a point been won by the two major political parties, that is the NPP and the NDC, since the return to multi-party democracy in 1992. The findings state a majority of respondents sampled from the Brong Ahafo region, Western, Central and Greater Accra region say they are likely to vote for the NPP, while those sampled in the Northern region are likely to vote for the NDC.
The result says that 55.8% are voting for if the election were held the day we conducted last, for instance, today, are voting for His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, whilst 38.8% are voting for NPP. Results tells us that 44% are voting for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, 44.5% are voting for NPP, Papa Kwasindum have 5.5%, Urban Green Street have 1.5%, and will not vote for any presidential candidate have 4%.
Interesting revelations there. Those who will not vote for any presidential candidate constituted 4% of that particular research. Well, Anti-Corruption Coalition have rated state media outlets, including the state broadcaster, as biased in election-related reportage. The study was conducted from June to August to monitor any form of abuse of incumbency, but the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation says it is not to be blamed. My colleague Hannah Odame was at that program. She joins us on the line. Hannah, who constitutes this coalition, first of all?
The coalition constitutes the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, the CDD, and the GII, that's the Ghana Integrity Initiative.
And what are the findings?
Well, the findings, they were conducted for 6 state institutions, and the findings were that all of them were biased in terms of reportage ahead of the elections from June to August. And these were the tenets that were used: the appearance of either political parties or their candidates, either in the newspapers or on the radio, which is Unique FM, or GTV, which is a TV station. The appearance were so low in terms of comparing the government in power, the NDC, and the other parties. Also, the number of stories that were the stations aired, you could see that the NDC obviously topped all. When it comes to the quality of access also, GTV is stating that they give access to all the political stations.
Right, Hannah.
All the political parties.
Hannah, very well, but what has GTV been saying in its defense?
Well, its Deputy Director News, that's the GTV, Johnny Aite, says that he doesn't really agree with this particular research finding, because GTV as a station has a policy. They give all the political parties and their candidates equal access. It is up to you to choose which one the political parties. And some of them don't even access these free bonus that they have given to them at all. Another instance that he raised was that when it comes...
Oh, it appears we lost Hannah on the line. But that's how we wrap up the show. For more news, log on to... The Pulse with the Pulse is up next. I do apologize for that, but you can catch the broadcast of this program on YouTube if you miss the live broadcast. I'm Arba Kumsin. The Pulse is up next. Don't go away.